everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. We'll get started in just about 1 minute. But for the moment, I would just like to do a quick sound check. So if you can hear me, just if you could send a quick chat in the chat box, that would be great. Thanks. Okay, great. Looks like you guys can hear me. Perfect. Trying to get my presentation started. Okay. Okay, I seem to be having an issue with my full screen mode, but I'll try to get that fixed in the meantime. We will get started so we don't lose any time. So again, thanks everyone for joining today's webinar. My name is Marley Long, and I'll go ahead and get things kicked off. So today we will be addressing solutions to address your SharePoint migration woes. And I also have Shehar Shardendu with me here from Technovert, who we've partnered up with for this webinar today. So I'll go ahead and get things rolling and some introductions and set the agenda for today.
Hi everybody, this is Shaker from Technovert. A very good morning to all of you.
Just a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, so if you want to share this with a colleague in the next few days, we will go ahead and send an email to everyone who signed up with the recording as well. And you can connect with either of us on Twitter. We are tweeting from the Twitter handle of @CardioLog, and Technovert is tweeting from the Twitter handle of @Technoverts. You can also check any of our available recordings online at www.intlock.com/media, and that was also where the webinar will be posted, but anyone who's registered for this webinar will also receive the webinar recording via email as well. In regards for today's webinar agenda, so we'll start out with a very short introduction. We'll talk a bit about Intlock, who we are. Then I'll introduce Shehar with Technovert, who will tell you a bit about what they do. He'll then present a bit about some of the industry's best practice for planning a successful SharePoint migration. So planning ahead, some of the best practices, different frameworks and approaches for smooth migration. Then I'll jump back into the presentation with some tips and best metrics that you can use to monitor your migration before, during, and after migration. And at the end, we will be taking a few Q&A in the event that we have some time, so feel free to send your questions throughout the course of the presentation, and if we don't get to any of them, we will definitely be answering them through email, so feel free to email us as well if you have a question after the webinar or something of that nature. Okay, just a brief introduction. So Intlock has been around for about 11 years now, since 2005. We are based out of Boston. So over the past 11 years, we've been focused on one thing and one thing only, which is web analytics designed for SharePoint and now Office 365. So our flagship solution is CardioLog Analytics. It's built specifically for internal platforms, including all versions from SharePoint 07 to 2016. As well as SharePoint Online, Office 365. Also can track third-party tools, Yammer, Citrion, CRM tools, and the like. And the solution is available both on-prem and as a SaaS-based version on Power BI. Okay, and at this time, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Shehar, and hopefully I'll be able to fix my PowerPoint. Sorry about that, you guys. So Shehar, I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter.
Thanks, Molly. Give me a second here. Okay. So thanks, Molly. Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everybody. This is Shekhar. I represent Technovert. Technovert is an IT consulting and services company. We're based out of Seattle. We have a couple of global delivery centers across U.S., and we also have an offshore center based out of India. We started as a SharePoint boutique shop. We've been working with enterprise customers, helping them with their SharePoint needs. We have helped customers for over 8 years now, since 2003 version of SharePoint, and helping them across the new versions that has come out since. We are currently a Microsoft partner for SharePoint, a gold partner. We also have a partnership in application development, BI, and cloud. We have a DNA of product company, so we have developed a lot of solutions and ideas around SharePoint, which helps customers quickly realize the value of their SharePoint investment. Saketa is one such brand that we have that focuses on Office 365 customers. And Technovert is primarily a consulting group that helps general consulting needs of our customers. So today we are going to talk about migration, SharePoint migration from various versions. As we walk into various customer situations, and we have seen customers still using some older versions of SharePoint. And over the past 8 years, we have identified various processes, frameworks, best practices that has helped our customers move to the latest and greatest. So while I go to my next slide, a quick question here is if I could know from the audience here which version of SharePoint you are currently using. That would be a great starting point. Let me quickly jump to the presentation here. Okay. Okay, so the entire migration process, I think it's a very straightforward process, as we can imagine. We start with primarily evaluating your current SharePoint environment, understanding and identifying your priorities. So based on which version of SharePoint you are and to what level of usage you have at this moment, we start what I call a discovery phase, which primarily means spending time both technically and functionally with you. Technically, to understand how the whole system is laid out, what are the infrastructure dependencies, and on the functional side, we primarily focus on understanding how SharePoint is currently used within your environment. Now, SharePoint, as it was conceived, was primarily a collaboration platform, or collaboration tool. It was a portal application and then evolved into a collaboration platform. Today, Microsoft is predominantly projecting SharePoint as a platform for applications. So, based on where you are in your SharePoint maturity model, we help create a roadmap and work with you in order to understand how we can take you there from where you are today. Now, during our evaluation process, there are multiple steps that are included where we will work with primarily the IT team and the power users within the organization based on how big you are and then how depth of usage you have of the platform. Now, at this stage, if I have to categorize the organizations which are out there, I mean, there are three broader categories of organization. One who are extremely advanced in the way they're using SharePoint, disregarding which version of SharePoint they are. And there are a lot of business dependencies, the line of business applications. It is used as a file share. It also has a collaboration platform like an intranet, and you have team sites and department sites and things like that. Then you have a second tier of organizations who primarily use SharePoint as a file share and nothing beyond that. And then there is a third tier which does have a SharePoint, but they don't really use it that effectively at all. So based on these three different types of organization, we have different approaches at the evaluation stage and helping them do a proper planning to move it to the next level and do the implementation. So what you will also see at the end of the presentation when Marlene will start talking about her offerings and what CardioLog does. I think what we're doing in partnership with CardioLog is we're using their analytics tool at various stages of our migration planning, which helps us with a lot of data in terms of the users, the platform itself, and that helps us, doing the overall migration planning as we move forward. The first step of the evaluation is essentially creating an inventory of all the items that are there. So primarily we divide into a farm level, site level, and content level inventory. As it is, and another question I would like to ask is who all we have in the audience. So based on whether you are a power user or an IT administrator or SharePoint administrator or somebody who's directly handling SharePoint, please feel free to ask questions at this stage. So once we have done the inventory, we have done the existing inventory lineup and we understand how your current SharePoint is laid out. We also then focus on trying to figure out, different types of users, security, application levels that are there, and also try to understand what is the various performance and scalability metrics which are available within the system, and if there are any issues around it. Search and governance plan are two very important areas that we focus on during our evaluation phase to understand how your search is currently used and how we can improve on it. Governance plan, I use this as a very famous quote of mine. SharePoint is a white elephant, and it may tend to become a very very heavy platform if we are not able to put protocols in place from the very beginning. And I think governance plan is a living and breathing thing. It's not necessarily a piece of document or a bunch of people coming together every week. It's primarily an evolving plan that helps business use SharePoint much more effectively on an ongoing basis. And what we have helped customers based on their engagement with SharePoint is to create a governance plan that is in line with their needs. We also focus during our analysis phase, and this is something that everybody should do, is focus on the current constraints that you have or the potential constraints that you will have, and what is the expectation of the end user. So the net focus here is primarily the end user adoption, leveraging the latest and greatest of SharePoint as much as possible from the what you've been using currently, creating a robust governance plan, and the last but not the least is primarily focusing on how we can leverage SharePoint more and more for a better utilization of the platform itself. As a best practice, I think one of the suggestions we always pass on is to do a lot of internal discussions in order to figure out what is our goal. And there are multiple ways of it. What we have done is we have created various surveys based on line of business. So for example, within a typical business, you have HR, human resources, you have finance, you have operations, you have project management organization, and so on. So based on the type of the line of business, we have created various surveys which are in line with their business for us and for you to understand what is the expectation of the stakeholder, and in general, identifying the stakeholders within these various organizational components, and then create a common goal to create a success factor indicator. The second and probably a concurrent activity is understanding the underlying information architecture, redefining it to create a scalable and robust platform, SharePoint platform, and then also work on a governance plan. So as far as information architecture is concerned, the focus primarily is, and that's why we kind of do our goal survey before, because we want to create and understand, create a roadmap for next 5 years, and that understanding can only come by going and talking to the business. Based on these discussions and these outputs, there are two approaches that you will end up with. One is either you upgrade or you migrate. Now, upgrade is primarily for organizations who are using out-of-box SharePoint, and there are not many custom solutions or no custom solutions at all. So if it is fairly out-of-box, we take an upgrade approach. If it is a highly custom platform, we will what I call a holistic migration approach. And in both the cases, the important thing that we need to identify is what is our goal, what is that we're trying to achieve. And we have created various frameworks that helps us do that. So these are some of the typical reasons why you will upgrade or why you will migrate. So as I said, typically if you are fairly out of box, there are no custom solutions on top of it, and this is more of a feature upgrade, then we will go the upgrade route because it will give you a faster turnaround. Whereas in migrate is more where we are doing something which is heavy on content, a lot of custom solutions. And also when we are moving to cloud, we have to take the migrate approach. So today we are talking to a lot of customers who are primarily going from the on-prem to cloud, and we have created various approaches in order to take you from on-prem to cloud. One of the approaches is you primarily build a complete new set of environment in cloud, and then you create some protocols for the content level and the application level for the business to decide what is relevant, what can be archived, and then we pull the content in the new environment. So basically you build it and they will come is the concept, the Yankees concept that we're using here, primarily building a new environment and migrating the content based on the relevance and the need. So this is a very high level upgrade and migration approach. Now, while we are going ahead with this discussion, I'd also like to invite you to come and look at a migration checklist that we have created. My team will send it across to you after this webinar. That checklist essentially will help you very quickly kind of create an inventory of what you have. It also has very quick survey-based questions that allows us to understand where you want to go and how you want to see your SharePoint evolving. And based on that, we generally give you a migration and upgrade strategy. So you're welcome to use that as an option. The various options or approaches, as I was talking about earlier, you have in-place upgrade, which is primarily fairly out-of-box upgrade processes. We also have a database attached upgrade processes, another methodology that we are using for our upgrade process, our migration process. We also use various third-party tools, and here I'd like to mention, we also have our own migrator tool that helps you move from 2007-10 to 13 on-prem or 2016 on-prem or Office 365. Custom and holistic migration, again, this is if you have a lot of custom solutions. So primarily during the inventory and the evaluation process, what we will do is see how we can reuse some of the existing applications code, and if we need to do some of those from scratch. So based on what potentially could be the best way. So for example, if you are in 2007 and you need to go to 2013, we will take an in-place upgrade approach if you are fairly out of box. If you are on 2010 and you have hundreds of custom applications, we will rather do holistic migration, which will be a mix of using third-party migration tool and database attach upgrade approach. So again, based on where you are in terms of your current SharePoint and where you need to go, we will decide the right approach for migration. Now, content cleanup and data externalization, I think this is another area that we primarily focus on. So in collaboration with IT teams, we identify how do we want to do this. Some of this can be automated. Some of this needs to be done by the business themselves based on what kind of needs they have, if there is an archiving required, and things like that. So right from checking the storage quota to preparing a matrix which will help us identify how the resources will be consumed in your current SharePoint environment. Also fine-tuning the enterprise search capability of the platform, and also implementing various archiving archiving methods when it comes to moving the legacy data from the older versions. So we have various approaches that comes to content cleanup, where a lot of part of can be done through various tools, and then obviously there is a human required where the owner of the data themselves, content themselves, do the cleanup for this. As far as the entire architecture planning goes, I think one of the very important part of the whole SharePoint move is to have a new information architecture created, and also have a new system architecture in place, right? So based on if you are going on-prem, we also will identify what is the optimal SharePoint hardware required, and software requirement, and if there are any custom third-party tools required to do your new architecture. We also will work, and we understand that the best way to do it is work with your organizational goals, which you should identify during your survey process, and that will help you create the new information architecture, which will have the broader understanding of how SharePoint is going to be used. So, whether it will be an intranet, whether it will be an extranet, whether it will be a portal solution with, my sites, department level sites, team sites. We'll also have interactivities like images, videos. We can also create a lot of forms, self-serving forms, and workflows, etc. One of the important things that we were able to do while doing the new architecture planning is create security groups that has kind of helped us based on the user groups or different types of user categorization that we do during the service. We can create security groups, and that will allow us to what I call gamification of SharePoint in many ways. So based on what your interest is or what one's individual's interest is, we can throw relevant information when that person logs onto SharePoint, my site, or intranet. And so one of the important aspects of new architecture design is that we have been doing with a lot of our customers, especially the bigger customers where user adoption and engagement has been a primary focus for SharePoint engagement. Primarily, the migration process is a three-step process. We understand, we validate, we visualize the design, implement, and test. So the way we've seen, especially with our product line Saketa, which is essentially helping customers to quickly launch their SharePoint experience, we try to put everything in a box, try to get things quickly out of the door. And the process is very simple. We will do the service, as I said. We've also put some nice visual design on top of your current intranet to make it more engaging and more user-friendly. Because at the end of the day, the whole SharePoint investment is focused towards getting users onto SharePoint and let them use or get them using, and thus create the whole need of collaboration and organically grow the platform. So three-step process that we've been using. The SharePoint Saketa migrator very quickly. So as I said, we have a pre-migration checklist that helps us understand, what is the inventory, what are the various action items, what are the, let's say, custom solutions which are there that we need to take care of. The entire framework essentially has helped or will help you not only do migration from your current SharePoint to the latest and greatest, but it also allows you to move from various third-party platforms like Dropbox, OneDrive, and things like that. We primarily do a file share analysis. There is a file share analyzer. There is the content analyzer within the tool that allows you to analyze the various inventory items. Does a quick dependency check within the objects of SharePoint. There is also a metadata mapper and a migrator within the tool. So the migrator is not necessarily a content migrator, but it also takes care of other peripheral SharePoint dependencies that we have, including metadata and SP object dependencies. So this is another tool that you should check out, and you should reach out to us. We are releasing a beta for people to sign up and use this tool for the free of cost for next 45 days. As far as the implementation planning of migration is concerned, so typically the approach that we have seen, or based on, again, how big is your implementation, we'll do it in a staged manner. So we'll do a test migration, and then we'll do a production migration. And one of the use cases that I can share with you here is we're working with a county in Washington State where they are still on 2007, and they wanted to go to 2013. So again, beside the initial pre-migration checklist and trying to understand what are the dependencies, right now we are doing the test migration. So we are kind of moving them from 2007 to 2010 to 2013 in test. And once it is successful in the test, we will directly move it from 2013 test to 2013 migration. And this is a delta migration, so it is allowing us to have the downtime as low as possible in the implementation phase. Okay. Post-migration, very important. I think it is important to do a validation. So besides doing the user acceptance testing, it is important that you have a validation period available internally where you are supporting your business through the whole, getting onto the new platform process. Again, here, some of the CardioLog's tools are going to be very helpful in order to understand how the users are accepting the new platform, and if there are areas where we need to focus because people are coming and not using that as that specific section, right? We also will create a scheduled regular backup process. It is a nice way to do it. Also implementing the governance and creating certain roadmaps, milestones for the governance team in order to create the whole migration successful during your validation process is also very much suggested, and we created a whole process around it. Making sure that the entire pre-migration, turning on of the full crawl schedule and any incremental job created pre-migration. So primarily the Delta migration takes care of this part where we are moving the latest content to the whatever has been updated in the production to the 2013 or whatever is the latest production update. Primarily the post-migration process includes having people who understands the latest platform to support the business users, also do the fine-tuning of the platform as the users start using it, and make sure that the governance is enforced as the platform is released for general consumption. From a best practices perspective, I think there, besides what you have on your screen, I think 3 areas that you need to really focus on. One is understanding and identifying the goal and working towards that goal. Again, very subjective topic, but it is important that we focus on identifying the business owners, the people who can essentially take ownership of individual sections of SharePoint. That's very important. And this could be technical and functional people, that not necessarily SharePoint experts, technical experts, but there can be functional experts as well. Providing an effective end-user training is very important. The county case that I was talking about, we have given them a 4-week training between test migration and actual production migration to make sure that all their site owners are up to date with the latest features and whatever changes that have happened on the platform. That is another very important part. And I think having an open mind, listening to the business owners in terms of their expectations from the platform and evolving the whole governance policy is the third most important thing that I would like to pass on as a best practice. We have a migration survey which is available that I talked about earlier. So that will give you a chance to spend 30 minutes with our migration experts, and they will take you through the whole process. So please reach out to us, fill up the survey, and I will send out the survey to you. You can fill it out and reach back to us, and we'll give you a 60-minute free consultation. With that, I will end my presentation. If you have any questions, please ping us on the chat. I would also like to know, if you guys have done any migration during your SharePoint experience, anything that we can help you with. Okay.
Great, thank you, Shekhar.
Okay.
Very powerful presentation on migration. I can go ahead and make myself presenter. And Shekhar, I'm just going to need your assistance for a moment because I switched to one screen to try to fix this situation. And I won't be able to see my screen. So in a moment, if you could just let me know that the slide looks okay.
Okay.
Okay, and now I need to swap. Okay, so this is what I was hoping for. There might be a slight lag. Okay, great. Okay, so quickly I'll get started. Just to give you guys, I'm going to go through a bit of background on just general analytics for SharePoint, and then I'm going to tie it into our topic of migration and provide you with very tailored metrics that you can use before, during, and after a SharePoint migration. So our goal here is to constantly improve SharePoint based on how it's being used. So we talk with our customers about 3 main pillars. So the first one here is monitor, which is tracking the usage within SharePoint. The second is engaging users, asking them what their needs are, what their pain points are, and what's not working for them. And then finally, the most important pillar is to enhance. And we want to make sure that we're constantly improving SharePoint, improving the user experience based on these pillars. So the idea is to have these kind of actionable metrics which really allow us to constantly improve SharePoint and make it better for the users. So a few common questions, scenarios may resonate with you as well. Stakeholders and administrators from organizations oftentimes approach us and want to know very specific facts. So how can I determine my adoption levels at each step of the migration process? Can we identify what kind of content is being accessed? What are most users doing in the portal? Things like where are my users coming from? What are they searching for? And what is the most popular content. So these are just a few examples, but based upon these questions, we have very specific metrics that can give answers to these important business questions. Because at the end of the day, without these kind of vital pieces of information, organizations really are kind of just flailing in the wind. So these, they're making these large investments and deployments, and it's really something that is becoming more important now, is this constant need to measure. But it really, sometimes it's kind of this corporate phrase that we constantly need to measure, but actually it's quite essential, especially when making these kind of large scale changes. And I think that as the amount of data starts to accumulate more and more in the organization over time, this is going to become more accepted, and really this will be the standard practice amongst organizations and their usage of SharePoint. So just to give you an idea of what some of our customers have been able to do with analytics, so a few examples, I'll run through them pretty quickly. So in terms of proving portal ROI, they were able to engage with enterprise users, so increasing portal productivity, collecting insights from portal users. They were able to drive collaboration within the portal. Analytics can also be used to identify user challenges. So our customers facilitated innovative survey discussions, which I will show you guys a bit later on. And based upon these insights that they collected from surveys, they were able to empower and improve the user experience. Enhancing portal usability, so they could identify videos that were viewed for 20 seconds or less, and then either identify or replace ineffective video content in the portal. Similarly, unviewed announcements or updates, they were able to inform site owners how to most effectively position this content within the portal for increased viewing. And finally, increasing corporate productivity. So they were able to identify failed search queries based upon our search reports, so saving the employee time by refining failed searches. So they were also identified how many users were accessing the portal less than, say, 5 times per week, and they could easily see which employees were in need of training. So this kind of ties back to this whole idea of post-migration and training and analytics. This is something that Shehar touched on, but analytics can really help you to pinpoint where these weak spots exist and where you should focus your training, so that you're not spending all your money across the board on training, when actually you can see that there are very specific pain points where training is only necessary. So jumping into why analytics for migration specifically, so we've talked a lot about migration for adoption, but why do we need analytics when talking about SharePoint migration? So again, the key here is that you can only manage what you can measure. So only can we know what's successful in SharePoint and define if the new launch was successful, and measure if people are using it, and if the adoption is increasing after the migration, is being able to measure what's going on. And so how can we measure this deployment, analyze it, and then help people improve their environments based on real data? So again, making an investment, it's a large amount of resources in the form of budgets for licenses and consultants, as well as human resources. So it can involve multiple teams and admins. So this is really important when kind of looking at the big picture. So by leveraging analytics, you can really find out whether your portal is performing as expected, and whether it's truly providing value to your organization, and whether the migration was successful or not. Again, something really important, just a little tidbit about migration is these small steps. So there may be a big kind of business picture of what you would like to do with the migration and what you would like to improve in the new environment, but analytics are really these kind of small steps that compile to create this larger picture in which organizations can really base their decisions off of. So going into setting KPIs, so I know that, again, we talked about this a bit. Shekhar touched on this when discussing a migration strategy, but I really wanted to mention this idea of setting KPIs. So organizations may have difficulty determining what is a successful migration. So we talk about, using analytics to prove that a successful migration occurred or didn't occur or needs to happen, but how can we really determine that? So what are the right measurements that organizations should use? So determining the success of a migration is really based upon the KPIs that your organization sets out when you begin the migration process. So this is something that should happen early on and could be tweaked along the way. And it could actually be different. I'm sure that KPIs, especially with very large SharePoint portals, can be really different across the board. So for different groups and for different teams, their KPIs may look very different than the business group or the business team KPIs. So examples of some specific KPIs could be 90% of end users have migrated to the new portal, or a specific number of page views per week per department. So that's something that you can show with analytics. Or 80% of end users are active on social platforms, whether you have Yammer, Citrion, SharePoint Social, whatever you have. You want to show that you have active users on these platforms after the migration. And all of these metrics should be included in the success of the overall migration, but breaking these down into these kind of KPIs makes analyzing these successes and these failures more actionable and measurable. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the 3 ways to track migration. So kind of diving deep into the before, during, and after picture. So starting with before, so kind of analyzing things like content overload, disorganized information, setting a migration plan, and things like storage challenges. During the migration, so monitoring whether users are still entering the old portal, managing security permissions. And after is adoption of the new portal. There is the issue of the resistance to change, the technology learning curve, and the lack, or this is a challenge, is that the lack of ability to communicate effectively with users on their experience. So now we're going to dive a bit deeper. So one of the more important steps to take, so this is during the before migration process, is to prepare and clean up the portal. So cleaning up the sites, the lists, the documents, etc. So archiving or deleting unused content from the portal will ease this migration process. So essentially you can migrate only the content that is needed. So this is something you can use analytics to detect which pieces of content are not being used, and then clean up and making this cleanup and migration process much easier. So I'll now go into a few reports that you can use. So most popular content report, this is one of my favorite reports. So this report presents a table, so it's listing the most popular content ranked by the number of followers, likes, and comments. So your organization wants to create new pages, for example, perhaps a home page on the new internet. So questions to consider are whether you will use the same navigation bar that was used in the previous version. Perhaps there are links and buttons that people just aren't clicking on. So most popular content reports determine what aspects of the SharePoint page you should migrate and which are no longer relevant to the users. And this ensures that you can create more effective navigation tools within your new environment. Okay, so operating systems and browsers. So if specific mobile devices are really popular, you can use this report, which displays operating systems from Windows 7 to mobile devices to iPhone or iPad, etc. So, recently we've seen that mobile has become this really kind of driving force. So by understanding how your users are really accessing the portal, you can make design changes in the new version to accommodate those needs. And empowering your users in the new version by making sure their user experience is seamless and functional is a really great way to guarantee that your users are going to continue to come back to the new portal. So you can always monitor if your users are trying to access the portal but are using an old browser that no longer supports the portal due to technical constraints as well. So for example, if people are trying to access the portal on Windows 7 and you see that a lot of people are trying to access the portal on Windows 7, you can then, and you know that Windows 7 no longer supports the portal, you can then know that you need to send out something to your users telling them that they need to use a different browser to access the new version of the portal. Unmodified documents. So this report shows documents or lists that have not been modified or updated within a given period of time, which you are able to filter within CardioLog Analytics. So you can easily utilize this report to access if these types of documents, perhaps they're just irrelevant to users in the portal, or perhaps maybe they're not easily accessible. So a certain document that, you can see it wasn't modified in, say 3 months, but this is a document that's really important to the business that they would like people to see, then they can go in and investigate, why is this document not easily accessible, and perhaps make it more accessible on a home page or something like that. Another report to use during the pre-migration. So you can run reports on AD user groups and unique users also in CardioLog Analytics. So shows the AD user group shows the Active Directory user groups in SharePoint. So it's a direct connection with Active Directory, and it's ranked by page views and visits for a specific item or level of the portal hierarchy. So if you know that specific users or specific groups are not using your current intranet, they will probably need more focused training to make sure that they start using the new version. So you can automatically know that you can say, okay, I have this group here and I need to focus training on them in the time that by the time that we migrate to the new portal. Same goes for unique users. So this is a really great chart showing the distinct users visiting your portal. So you can see how many views, how many visits, how many searches have been conducted, and the visit duration. Also including the user name as well, authenticated users in the SharePoint portal. And you can also drill down into these users as well within the tool. You can also leverage these top users if you filter them. You can, if you filter them by how many visits they have, you can see that there are many. If you see many users have many visits, you can allocate specific roles to them. So SharePoint leaders in each department to help others who may not be as active or knowledgeable on the SharePoint portal. Okay. Moving on to the mid-migration process. So analytics can also assist you in measuring your SharePoint portal activity during the migration process. So are people adapting to the new portal or still trying to access the old environment? And you can find this out by using reports like usage trends and unique users. So the message bar, this is, you can see here where it says, hello, John, welcome to our new portal. So this is a message bar. It's a powerful tool that can be placed. It's visible yet unobtrusive full width bar at the top of your SharePoint site, allowing you to convey important information to your internet users without the need to overhaul any of your main content. So once this is in place, you can communicate announcements, alerts, ads, even links, all within a matter of minutes. And this allows site administrators to broadcast this kind of important information during this mid-migration process or redirect users to the new portal. So multiple farms, this is really important during the mid-migration process. So creating analytics reports that allow us to compare the usage of each farm allows us to see the progress from the old environment to the new one. So you can generate these usage trend reports to go ahead and see the usage trends of farm A versus farm B. So say you have SharePoint 2010 here versus the new farm SharePoint 2013. And then you can go and drill down into this and monitor this activity at a more granular level. So you can easily compare the trends for a site that you've migrated, for example, an HR site, and see if users from the HR department are still using the old version or have successfully migrated to the new version. All right. Moving a bit quick now. So post-migration, the biggest challenge in any migration is making sure people are really utilizing the new portal. So a large amount of time, effort, and budget is really dedicated to purchasing new license, migrating content, and training new users. So there's really a need to show that users are leveraging the new portal and that there is a return on investment from the actual migration. So enhancing the user experience is also something that analytics can help achieve. So by creating reports to measure adoption, you can easily make these improvements in the new portal. And communicating with your users is also really important because you can easily encourage interaction in the new portal and really gain these insights from your users. So I'll go in a bit of detail. So here I showed you guys, you can also use the unique users report to track adoption. So you can track anything from the user, so the username, cookie identifier, or IP address, the views, so the number of page views, the number of visits, the number of searches, and again, the visit duration. And then, so we can move forward now to search reports. So a great example of this is of looking at this kind of adoption and increased productivity that we want to see after a migration is through search. So if we find that everyone is searching for the same content, let's put a link on the home page. Let's save everyone those 30 seconds that they're searching for that same popular content. And we can also look at an on-site failed search phrases report. So here we can see we had 878 searches but 0 results. So we can see that this search term is generating 0 results in the portal. So this is actually a need of our users and they can find it. So perhaps we need to generate some content to help our users get around in the portal. And this is where search reports can really help us with gaining these kinds of really valuable insights. So my last report that I'll show you is actually part of our collaboration and engagement tool, which is built into CardioLog Analytics. And this is actually a surveying tool, so it collects real-time feedback from the users as they experience SharePoint. So the best way to ask your users about their user challenges is just simply to ask them. So important questions, what do they need from the portal? What would they like to see in the new version? What's missing in the new version that was in the old version? Or what's difficult for them or confusing to them about the portal? So, again, surveys are really effective to use post-migration, but also, again, they can be used prior to migration, asking them what's missing from the portal and what they would like to see in the new one as well. Okay, so we've got about just a few minutes for Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, just briefly, if you could write your questions into the questions box, and we will be happy to answer them. And sorry, I had to run through the end quite quickly just for the sake of time. But again, you can visit us at intlock.com or at technovert.com. You can tweet us at CardioLog. And we will be sending out the recording and posting the recording online in just a few days. And again, Shehar, would like to thank you for your insightful presentation on the best practices. And
thank you. It is all ours. And we look forward to connect with everybody and
sure.
Share more details as needed.
And if anyone if anyone would like to ask questions, feel free to email us, and we're happy to answer any questions after the webinar as well. Okay. Okay, so I have one question I see. So talking about, this is a question I believe from Carol. So triggering workflows. Okay, so how can we trigger workflows? Okay, sorry, I received this question actually via email, so I don't have the exact question in front of me. So just to give you an idea, I'm not sure if this question was asked towards CardioLog or towards Technovert. Let me see if I can actually pull this email up. No, okay. So just to give you a kind of brief answer, so CardioLog specifically is working on a kind of integration with Nintex workflows. So in terms of that, we are working on something to be able to trigger workflows based on data from CardioLog. Beyond that, I believe the question was more about the migration of workflows, of SharePoint workflows. So I don't know if that's something that you focus on, Shekhar, but if not, I'll try to get more information on that.
Yeah, so why don't we, Marlene, why don't we gather the questions and then we will send the detailed response to everybody. I think that would be much better.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and I see I have one other question about what are the types of reports we can generate in CardioLog. So the types of reports that can be generated in CardioLog range, so much more than just the kind of out-of-the-box SharePoint usage reports. So very detailed reports starting from just general kind of things like page views, going into navigation, going into search reports, content types, visitor reports, so very granular details on visitors, as well as reporting for Yammer, Citrion, SharePoint Social. We're also tracking SharePoint videos at the moment. So that's just a brief idea, but I think now for the sake of time we're running a bit short. So feel free to send any of your questions via email, and Shekhar and I will be very happy to answer them via email as well. All right.
Thanks everybody for joining.
Okay. Thanks, Shekhar, so much.
Talking to everybody. Thanks, Marlene.
Great. Have a great day, everyone.